This looks more like a pixelated piece of art than a quilt.
Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs, and welcome to my weekly vlog for Monday, February the 17th, 2020, and it's vlog number 155. So hope everybody had a good Valentine's Day weekend. Bah humbug. We don't celebrate it, although Walter did buy me a box of chocolates, which we both proceeded to eat. He got it at the dollar store. It's in a heart-shaped box. It was a brand called Russell Stover, which are, medium quality kind of chocolates, but you buy them at the dollar store, so, that tells you something. And there was only about 8 chocolates in the box. Got to keep our girlish figures, don't you know? And we ate about 4 each. So that was Valentine's for us. Like I said, bah humbug. Hope yours was good, though. And if you did something special, then write a comment below and let us know what you did. It's kind of interesting to hear what people do on Valentine's Day, especially if it's not the usual thing, like, go out for dinner, have chocolates, get flowers, get drunk, make a baby. I don't know. But anyways, don't know where I was going with that. Okay, let's get into things here before I get into trouble. So, current projects. Let me have some coffee. And let's take a look at things. Well, I've been very productive lately when it comes to doing quilts, and here's one of my latest ones. This is from my class called Geese Galore, and the reason it's called Geese Galore is because it's all made up of a style of block called flying geese, and each one of these is a flying goose. So there's a lot of them in here, and basically this is all done in scrappy format, meaning that there really isn't any real plan to this. I made it all out of batiks and I laid it out. There is a bit of a pattern that I followed in terms of how I laid it out, but it's not anything major that you can really tell. Added the border, and I've also made the backing for this. Now, originally I had picked out some background fabric that I was going to use for this, backing fabric. There's a difference between background fabric and backing fabric. Background means when you see a quilt that has, maybe a lot of white intermixed with it, or black, or a solid color, something like that. That's called background. Backing is the fabric that goes on the back of the quilt. And as I said, I'd already picked out what I was going to use for that, but then I decided I had a lot of strips of batik fabric left over, so I thought it might be kind of fun to make my own backing, a piece backing. And I've made piece backings before. This isn't anything revolutionary, but I thought this was kind of neat, and I need to use up some of my supplies as well. So difficult to show because it is actually bigger, but that's what it looks like. So I just randomly chose batiks in strips and sewed them in the middle and finished off with white on either side. So this will be the backing for this quilt. And the batiks on the back go with the batiks on the front. Actually, when you use batiks are very easy to match up because basically batiks all go together no matter what the color. Now, maybe some people would disagree with me about that. I'm just trying to fold this up and get it out of my way here for a second, so bear with me. I'm probably hitting my microphone and making noise. But here's another view of it. It's very colorful. And I like working with batiks because they are a nice fabric to sew. They're very abstract in design, and the colors are usually bright and bold and beautiful. And I'm all about bright and bold and beautiful, as you can tell. So I was on a roll. I got that one done. Next stage of that is to get some batting, get it layered, and quilt it. And I'm going to quilt it on my embroidery machine. I'm getting much better at doing that, and I really do like the result. It means I don't have to go to a long armor and, rent time on the machine. I mean, maybe someday I'll get a long arm, but right now this is working out fine for me. And the difference in cost is, well, I've already paid for the sewing machine. A long arm machine is going to cost me $15,000 plus. So, and it's huge. They're huge. I have to have space for it. So anyways, a little dry this morning. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. So I was just in the mood. Actually, I was quilting. I'll show you. My guild has some charity projects that they do. And I was feeling guilty because I basically have not contributed to those charity projects since I've belonged to the guild. Now, one of the reasons is I didn't have the confidence in my skills to do something like that, although these projects are fairly simple. And the other thing was time. But I decided there was a need at the guild for people to pick up some of these charity projects and work on them. So I did. I picked up 3. One of them was to make a walker bag. Hate it. Absolutely hated the fabric that they supplied with this. It was like an upholstery material. It shredded and it unraveled and it was difficult to work with. The instructions that came with it, I'd never done a walker bag before, and supposedly it's really simple. And well, actually I should show it to you. I forgot to bring it out. So give me just a minute. I'll be right back. Okay, so I got the walker bag to show you, and this is what the final product looks like. Okay, so you see it's got this thing. I'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute. Let's flip it to the back. And essentially, this is what it is. There's Velcro. I think it wraps around the handle or the back of the walker, and that hangs onto it. And they can drop things in here. And there's a pocket on the inside. And I know it's difficult for you to see. Pockets, this is the pocket, okay? Now, to start off with, it came with the material, and the material was already pre-cut to this shape. Then I started to read the instructions, and it did come with instructions and a little picture which is not very clear. Now, maybe it was just me, or it's the way the instructions were written, I don't know, or a combination of both, because I'd never done one of these before, but I had a great deal of difficulty understanding some of the instructions. One of them was with the pocket. They had supplied 2 pieces of material, but they referred to only one. And I've put in pockets before. Pockets aren't difficult, but the fabric was more of an upholstery fabric, and it just shredded when I was trying to sew it. It was horrible. So I threw that out as I made a mess of it, and I grabbed some of my own material and made the pocket that I've already shown you inside here. So fine, I got over that hurdle. Next hurdle was you're supposed to, this bag is lined as you can see, and you have to do some stitching around a curve. Well, I've done that before, not a big deal. Well, it wouldn't have been a big deal, again, if this fabric had been, well, I don't know where they got the fabric from. It was probably donated, you know, bless their heart whoever donated it, but really, sometimes donations go bad, and this is one of them. I hate it working with this. It's not a cotton, it is a upholstery fabric, and it just shreds. But I managed to work my way through it, got the Velcro on the whole bit, and so we got the walker bag. But then you're going to make this luggage tag thing. Now, first of all, I was trying to think, what was the principle of a luggage tag, which is what this is. They had, now the fabric they supplied to make the luggage bag was smaller than this. Well, I botched that up. And I don't think it was totally my fault. Here's the instructions for how to make the luggage tag. It says, layer as follows. Batting, comma, white/cream folded, comma, bias tape, comma, then outside fabric placed right side down. The bias tape is placed with both raw ends even with the outside edge of the fabric, and the rest of the tape tucked inside between the fabrics. Sew around the edge, leaving a small opening at the bottom of the side. Turn right side out through the opening, press well, and top stitch around luggage tag. Okay, I kind of know, because I've made bags before, you know, about embedding the ends of the straps of the bag inside your bag. But the way these were written, I didn't understand, like this thing about white/cream folded. There was a piece of white/cream fabric in there. I don't know, was I supposed to fold it, but how would that work with the rest of it? Didn't get it. Tried several times, mangled it badly. So I decided to do my own. I had to go to YouTube to figure out how to get these straps, because this is actually turned inside out and the straps are on the inside, but it's between the lining and there's batting in here and whatnot. I finally figured it out, but I made it bigger. They might not like that. I don't know. Now I got thinking about it. They had a dark fabric on one side, like I have here, and then they had this light fabric on the other side. And I thought, if it's a luggage tag, maybe it's so the person who gets this can write their name on it with a fabric marker. So on the third try, I decided one side would be white fabric so they can write their name. That's the only thing I can assume from that. I can tell you this much. I will certainly not be doing another one of these stupid things. Not with this kind of material. And yeah, I mean, it's nice that you know, my guild is doing something. It's a charity thing, and these are going to like nursing homes and retirement residents for people, you know, that have walkers, and that's all great and good. But I think there's some assumptions that were made in these instructions, and the assumptions were that people know what you mean by the way these are written. I didn't. Like I said, it may just be my lack of experience, and I'm sure that is part of it. But I don't want to make another one of these, so screw that idea. So, but it's done, okay? So my contribution there. Another project they had was to piece together, they had them pre-cut pieces of fabric for making a small quilt, basically a throw, and very basic design. And I have looked over the instructions for it, and they are a little bit better written. And I think I understand what I have to do with that. So that's okay. I haven't started it yet. I just organized the fabric that came in the kit and get my mind around it so I know how to do it. Another one that I took, though, they have all these quilts that are already pieced, but they need them to be quilted and bound. So I thought, since they're a charity quilt, and people are always saying about these charity quilts, yeah, they're great practice quilts, you know, to practice what you're doing on it. So I thought I'd get one to practice my embroidery hoop quilting. And I did, and I think it turned out pretty good. Now this was what they call a panel. That's a panel, okay? And you can see my quilting. I think it's the brown swirls. Not absolutely perfect, but I'm not going to point out what the mistakes are. But this took me all day Saturday and about a half hour more on Sunday to do. And that's okay, because actually I was working on some other things. I was working on what I'm going to show you next on that. But I have it all squared up. It just needs the binding. And the binding came with it. It looks like they try to distribute it out amongst people so nobody gets overloaded. Because there's places to put your name with what stage you did. Like there's the name of the piecer and the name of the quilter and then the name of the binder on here. But the binding's already there ready to go, and binding, I don't mind doing binding. Binding's pretty easy. So I'll bind this later today or this week, and that project will be all done. And it's a flannel backing on it, so it's very cozy, very warm, and it's a charity. And I imagine it'll probably go to somebody with children. You know, that I would think, since it's got children's design on it. Now, more coffee. Sorry if I slurped. So I just was really in the mood for, I have a loose thread. There it goes. For just doing something with scraps. And I had a whole bunch of scraps left over from that quilt and from some other projects. And I thought, hey, let's just do a scrappy quilt top. And what I mean by that is I just willy-nilly sew all these pieces together and cut them into squares and make a quilt out of them. So I did. Now I had a few what they call orphan blocks. Orphan blocks are things that you may have made or experimented with, but they didn't really make their way into a finished quilt. And I thought, well, I had a few of those, so I'd throw those into, and bits and bobs and whatnot, and this is what I came up with. And I'm not going to, actually what I'll do is I'm going to pause again for a second. I'm going to hang this one up so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so here's the one made from scraps. I have it hung up here for you to see. Now you can see there's no pattern to this. It's just whatever. And I kind of like doing this kind of quilting. One, it's usually fast. Two, it uses up a lot of your scraps that you don't know what to do with. And believe me, I still have a lot of scraps. And in this one's case, because most of this is batiks, again, it doesn't matter about the color combination. It just looks good. Now you can see where I have put in some blocks that I had never put into a finished quilt. This is a block up here. This is a block here. A block here, a block here, and there's a couple below that you can't really see. But yeah, it's great for using things up. I slapped a border on it, and since it's already bold and bright, I just slapped on another bold and bright border along here as well. I really like it, and I think when I get it quilted and make the backing, now the backing on this I think I may just do in a plain fabric. I don't think I'll piece a backing for this, mainly because I've got other projects to work on as well. But I will quilt that, and that took me, well, while the baby quilt was being quilted, I worked on this. I did it in a day. No problem. Quilt in a day. I guess what's her name? Eleanor Burns would be proud of me. So yeah, I was very busy. And there's more. So I belong to an online group called The Quilter's Way. It's a paid membership group. I actually have a link to it in the show notes below today if you're interested, if you're a quilter. It's very, very good. A friend of mine out west, she runs this particular group, and we get together electronically, virtually I guess you'd call it, every other Friday. And this particular Friday we had a group project, and it was to do some free motion quilting on a mandala. So Kim, the organizer and person who runs the Quilter's Way, sent out to us in advance a PDF file with a pattern for a mandala that we traced onto fabric, and we made the fabric into a quilt sandwich so we could do some free motion quilting on it. We're not finished yet. We're going to do this again in our next session, and because of the colors I chose, you probably can't see it all that well, but if you look in the center at the points and that, you will see some of my free motion quilting. Perfect? No, but good practice and kind of fun, and it's kind of a piece of art in a sense. So we'll fill in the rest later, and what I might do with this, depending on how it turns out, I might actually put a border on it or a binding, and it becomes a wall hanging. Simple as that. So a lot of little projects I've been working on lately. I'm a quilting machine. Okay, so that's a little longer than I usually spend on my projects, but I want to show those all to you. And I must get out another edition of the Idiot Quilter and talk about some of the pitfalls and things. I always like to point out my mistakes. A lot of people say you shouldn't do that, but I say yes, you should. Because I think people learn more from your mistakes than they learn from seeing a perfect project every time and making them think that, oh God, I never make mistakes. I'm absolutely perfect. Well, I am in my own mind. I am a legend in my own mind. Okay, so let's move on. Now this week, the YouTube channel of the week is actually 3 YouTube channels. I've been watching these on a regular basis. They're about cruising. And if you've never been on a cruise before, and right now is not the time to be on one because of the coronavirus and everything that's happening there, but that will pass. We have faith that will pass. Watching some of these YouTube channels will really give you a lot of tips and tricks and what to expect when you're going on your first cruise. Now, Walter and I have been on 9 cruises over time, so we're pretty experienced with this, but I always pick up something from these channels. So I thought I would review 3 of my favorites right here, right now. This week's YouTube channel of the week is actually 3 YouTube channels. Each of these are travel YouTube channels, and they're all great if you're planning to take a cruise. I've been on many cruises, and a lot of the information you get from these 3 sites is very, very useful, especially for people who have never been on a cruise before. So, Tips for Travelers, Dawn's Family Vacations, and the Lido Loco Cruise Show are all very excellent YouTube channels that will talk about how to save money, the best things to do when you're on a cruise, what to watch out for, And lately, they've been reporting on the whole coronavirus episodes that are happening on some of the cruise ships. So if you want up-to-date information on cruising, then check out one or all of these 3 YouTube channels. So the link for those 3 YouTube channels is in the show notes below, as is the link to Stephen and Walter Live. This past week, it was just us chatting. It just went everywhere in our discussion because we didn't have a specific topic. And a little bit hard pressed, I'll admit, to come up with a topic each week. So I'm looking towards you, the people who subscribe to me and who watch Stephen and Walter Live on a regular basis. If you've got a topic you want us to tackle, please drop us a line. Either send it to me as email. My email address is at the end of my videos, or put it in the comments below the video. That would be great. And of course, there's a link to the Quilter's Way that I just mentioned, and a link also to the book of the week, and we'll come to that in a moment. But first, let's talk about what's pissing me off this week. All right, you may or may not know that Cricut, the manufacturers of the Cricut, which is the electronic die cutting system that's been around for many years now, have just come out with a new machine. They call it the Cricut Joy. Okay, the Cricut Joy, and we talked a little bit about this on Stephen and Walter Live, so I'm not going to get into details about its specifications. You can check that at Cricut.com or wherever. There's tons of reviews about it on YouTube right now. It's basically a miniature version of their machine. It's very portable. It does cut like the bigger machines, except that there are some limitations. One is its size, how much it can cut. And the other thing is they've basically geared this towards people who like to make really long 20-foot vinyl banners. I'm not one of those people, so I won't be purchasing one of these. It's also not cheap. It's $179.99 US. That translates into about $225 Canadian, plus tax on top of that. Plus, you can't use any of the accessories that you have for your existing Cricut machines with this one. So you got to buy new blades, new pens, that kind of thing. They tote that it doesn't need a cutting mat. No, it does need a cutting mat, but the cutting mat is for your paper projects. What they mean by not using a cutting mat is something they call smart material, which is vinyl and iron-on, which is on a roll. And the roll's only about, 6 inches wide, maybe, slightly less, and up to 20 feet. And there's a backing on that vinyl that serves as a cutting mat as well. Well, great, if all you want to do is cut vinyl. I thought this might be something that would be great for people who want something to cut their die cuts with on the road, like when they go to a crop or something like that. And I think you could do that with it. For people who don't want to outlay $300 to $400 to buy a full-size Cricut machine, this might be a nice beginner step into the world of electronic die cutting. Maybe. I was a little pissed off that they didn't mention anything about its power source. They kind of let you in the official Cricut.com videos of this machine, made you think that it was powered by batteries or rechargeable batteries. They didn't show a power cord with it. Well, there is a power cord with it. It doesn't recharge. It doesn't take batteries. So that limits your portability. What I mean by that is, well, you got to be someplace where you've got an outlet handy and a long extension cord probably. So that was something they didn't mention at all. It is in the specifications when you go to the Cricut website and you look, and you'll see that it's got a power adapter. That's what they call it. Which again makes you maybe think, oh, well, it's rechargeable, but you use the power adapter when you want to recharge it, or when you're not using it in a portable facility or something like that. No, it has to be plugged in. So that's a bit of a disappointment. But what pisses me off about this is not just Cricut, but it's what a lot of manufacturers are doing now in the crafting world. Quite frankly, there hasn't been anything revolutionary and new under the sun in quite a while in the crafting community, in my opinion. It's all variations on a theme, and I have talked about this before, but this release of this Cricut Joy, is what they call it, is an example of this. Years ago, when I first got into Cricut machines, I bought what they called the Micro. It was about $99. It was about a third of the size or half the size of a full-size machine. It didn't do as much as a full-size machine, but it was a way of getting your feet wet at a low introductory price, basically, into Cricut using electronic die cutting machine. And I bought one, and that did get me hooked on Cricuts. I had a brother scan and cut before then that I paid about $600 for when they first came out. And I loved it at the time, but I loved the Cricut more. I still have the Brother Scan and Cut. It's sitting over in a corner with a cover over top of it. I haven't used it in a long time because the Cricut, in my opinion, is far superior to the Brother Scan and Cut. Now, people would probably debate with me on that, and that is fine. Just my opinion. I use my Cricut Maker on a regular basis. I also have a Cricut Explorer Air, and I don't use it at all. Not because there's anything wrong with it, it's just that the Maker does more, and that's the one that's my go-to machine. The other one just sits here and looks pretty. I probably should try and sell it. I don't know. Anyways, I digress. So, Cricut comes out with the Joy. It's just a variation on a theme. They had a micro machine, which is what this Joy is, many years ago. They got rid of it. Now they've got this. Is it better than the old micro? Not really. Not at the price point that they're selling it at. Yeah, it focuses more on vinyl if you're into vinyl. The old one didn't really, but I think the old one would have cut vinyl too. At least my Cricut Maker will cut vinyl. My Explorer Air will cut vinyl. So I'm pretty sure the Micro would have too. So, you know, they're selling it on the cute factor. They're trying to suggest that it's very portable, but it has its limitations as portable. So this is what I'm saying. They're trying to, it's like when you see a product on the market, it says new and improved. The only thing that's new and improved about that product is the fact that they put the words new and improved on the box to get you to buy it because their sales are dropping. So they need a way to rejuvenate it, to get people excited about their product again. Same old product, but you slap new and improved on it, people immediately think, oh, this will be great, I'll try it. Again, sales go up. And basically that's what Cricut's doing too. And this is a common practice in most manufacturing. And what's pissing me off is they think as consumers we are idiots, and maybe we are. Because we buy into that. Oh, new and improved, I should try that. It's better than before. You see things like 25% more of a product. Is it really 25% more? Might be a little more, but is it really 25%? How are you going to tell? How are you going to figure that out? Are you going to take everything out and take an old box and a new box and weigh it or count it or whatever and figure out exactly that there's 25% more? New and improved price. I love that one. You have new, you have improved, and it makes it sound like the price is better. And usually when you see that on a product, the price has actually gone up. Yes, it is a new and improved price for the company in terms of their profit. So basically what I'm pissed off at is how these companies come at us. They manipulate us through their wording, through their advertising, through their graphics, through the way that they sell you the product to make you think you're getting something new and exciting and it's better than what you've ever had before and you've got to run out and get it. And that's what Cricut's doing with the Cricut Joy. Now, Cricut does make a good product. I will say that. I've never really had major problems with any of their products on the Cricut line, but it's the price that's really got me. $179.99, $180 US for this little box. A brand new Cricut Maker will cost you around $400 Canadian. And as I said, that $179.99 really translates into, with the exchange rate, to about $225 Canadian before tax. So that's a lot of money to put out there. For an extra $150, I can have a full-size Cricut Maker. And if I think I'm getting this because it's going to be really great if I go to a crop, don't go to them anymore, because it's portability, no. I still have to plug it in. And it has its limitations as into the size of what I want to cut. So am I going to run out and buy one? No, I am not. If the price point was something like $79 to $99 Canadian. I would seriously consider it, because at that price, I'd figure, well, that's not a major investment. But at what they're asking for it, no, not going for it. So I'm pissed off this week at the way we're constantly being manipulated. And we should be pissed off at ourselves because we fall for it, really. I mean, anybody with half a brain can figure out that these consumers aren't doing something, or these manufacturers aren't doing something for the consumer's benefit. It's all about them. Of course, that's big business. That's how they work. So I guess buyer beware. Okay, so let's move on to home decor ideas. This week it's art on a wall. This week's DIY home decor tip is to make your own gallery wall. That's right, take your own art and stick it up on a blank wall and call it a gallery. This is where you can show off all of your various experiments with your crafting supplies, and when your friends come over, they will be amazed to find your own personal art gallery on the wall. It adds a splash of color, it displays your creativity, and it's fun to see. So, if you've got a whole bunch of stuff just hanging around that you experiment with, get it out of the closet, stick it up on your wall, and let other people hate it. I mean, admire it. Okay, so stay tuned for more helpful ideas for decorating your home, he says with a smirk. Okay, so let's take at what products I have this week. All right, this is not a new product, but I'm using it in a different way, at least a different way for me. Several years ago, Tim Holtz came out with these things called portfolios, and that's essentially what they were. They were manila cardstock, already shaped in that as a portfolio. And you could take the portfolio and decorate it whatever way you want, and it was kind of cool. And I bought several of them, and I did alter several of them, but I had a few left over, and they came in different sizes. So I was going through my stash the other day, and I came up with this one. And it's a smaller one. Oh, that's my stomach. I'm sorry if you heard that. No brekkie. And I decided I needed something to hold patterns. I'm always constantly collecting patterns online. Now, I have a big box of patterns. I'll never get through those quilts in 1,000 years, but I collect them anyways. But there are some that really stand out that I really want to make an effort to do. And if I leave them in that box, I'll never get to them because they'll be out of sight, out of mind. So I thought I'd put ones that I'm really, really interested in this portfolio. And thus you can see I used my tape maker, label maker to patterns to work on. So inside this little portfolio, now remember, these come made this way. I added this colorful paper on the front of it, but I didn't do any decorating in it, and I don't think I ever will. But the way it's designed, it just opens up and it holds these patterns in a very neat, compact way. And I'll just dump those ones out, and you see there's this little insert that has little pages, and you can stick things in there, and I was sticking things in there, and I just dumped them out on my table. But you see, for example, here's a pattern, and it just fits right in there very nicely. And I have other ones in here too. So I can take all these patterns and drop them in here, and then it just closes right up, and it comes already, these are already on it, this little elastic corner straps, and there you go. And so I can drop this in my bag for a retreat, and yeah. So my theory is, I have this out on my sewing table, I see it, I might actually work on these patterns. That's the theory. But these portfolios, I don't know if they're still available or not, but they are fun to work with and decorate and do things with. There's something a little different from just making a standard journal or album. Okay, and the other thing I bought, don't laugh, is a set of digital calipers. Now you're going to say, why would you buy digital rented lips calipers? Well, calipers measure the thickness of things. And so, for example, just set this at 0. Okay. And you slide it open, and you take something like paper or whatever you want, and you just Okay, it's not easy to do this with one hand, but I'm just closing this up right there. And now the thickness of that book is 7.0 millimeters. Now this will convert to inches as well. And why would I have this? Well, let's go back to the Cricut for a minute. The Cricut Maker can cut a lot of different products, but it has its limitations as to the thickness of those products, especially things like chipboard. It does a good job on chipboard, but it does have its limitations. And I forget what it says, how thick is the maximum it can cut. But it's kind of difficult to tell when you're just looking at a piece of chipboard or some very heavy cardstock. So with this, you take the guessing away. This will tell you exactly how thick it is. It's a toy, but I think it could come in handy for other things, like when you're doing measurements. Say the inside of a circle. Well, that's what this top part's for. You just put that inside your cutout of your circle and you just adjust it to either side, and it's going to tell you what the inside measurement is. So if you want to do things that are precision, this might be a tool for you. Are these expensive? No, that's the beauty of this and why I bought it. Amazon.ca. I got it for $11.99. Cheap, at half the price. So really, it might be something you might have a use for in your crafting. We'll see. It's a gizmo. I love gizmos. Okay, so that's all I've got that's new for product reviews. So let's talk about the book of the week. Now, for a very brief time in my crafting career, I decided to try doing wire weaving for jewelry making. So I got this book called Weaving Freeform Wire Jewelry. And I did attempt it and got promptly bored with the whole thing. Now that's something I found, let's see. So, you know, if you're into jewelry making though, and many people are, the only reason I'm not into jewelry making is basically because I don't wear jewelry. I wear a ring, that's it. So I don't have a lot of interest in it. But I do know a lot of people do, and a lot of people make money from making jewelry, original jewelry. So this book is for those people. It tells you about the supplies you need, the tools you need, and it gives you different ways to weave wire to make very interesting elements. And if you're into mixed media, and I did this with mixed media, you can make some interesting looking things to add to a mixed media piece as well. But that's as far as I got with it. But this is a really good book for getting you into that kind of thing. What did it cost me? I bought it for $29.50 Canadian at the time. And I did look it up. And you can get it on Amazon for Amazon.ca for $22.93 and free shipping if you're a Prime member. And you can find it for as low as $11.99 used. Not sure what the shipping would be on that. So if you've ever thought about getting into jewelry making, that kind of thing, or wire work, then Weaving Freeform Wire Jewelry by Kaska, Firor, F-I-R-O-R, then this is the book for you. And the link for that's in the show notes below. Okay, so that takes us now to the next stage in the iCraft photo box album that I've been working on. So I have that here for you now. Okay, so the next stage is to put some background papers on this, and I already have done that. But before I show you what it looks like inside, I'll just show you the paper pad I used. It's a Graphic 45. I've had it for quite a while. It's called Times Nouveau. So it's got sort of a fashion nouveau style to it, that 1920s sort of look. And I'm using that for my background papers, and also be using some of the embellishments that come in that paper pad as well to decorate this in the next segment. So I've already gone ahead and put down the papers, as I said. Reason being is this is a fairly simple way to do it. I used my Cricut to cut out my pages, but you could use your paper cutter. That's not a problem. And the dimensions for cutting each of these out are very easy. I did leave about a 1/4 inch around each of the edges just to give a bit of a border. And you'll notice that I've switched over to the black album because I found putting the background papers on this particular album before you assemble it makes it a little bit easier. So I have my cover in the back. I used the same paper on both sides. The small spine here, so I just used some washi tape as well. And inside we have the frame. And now the frame, it's a little tricky to get it to stick together. The corners do have a tendency to open up. So I found that if I put a little bit of a border of some of that paper around the edges of that does secure it. And I have my background paper in here, all from the same pad. And I like to use the same pad because all the papers are coordinated and I don't have to worry about selecting them on my own. They're all there. The little booklet is right here. Now I had a little problem, and I'm still having a little problem, as I can see here. With this little booklet, they did not leave a big enough gutter on the cover part in order to glue down the edges of these pages. In fact, the pages themselves should have had a gutter as well, I think. If I was to redo this album, I would actually make some score lines on the inside of each of these pages, so I would have a gutter, and that would give me something to glue into the cover. What I'm using in the meantime is some washi tape here. I tried glue, didn't seem to hold very well, so I'm using some washi tape to hold the pages together. It's not the best solution, I don't think, because you can see here I've got things that are a little uneven, but I think once I get some other embellishments in here, that'll disappear. So that's all there is to this. I put another piece of washi tape down along the spine as well. I just found using washi tape is easier than trying to cut thinner pieces of paper like I did here. Originally I did put washi tape all the way around this, and I didn't like the look of it, and the washi tape I was using was not sticking very well, which is a common problem with washi tape. I have found some washi tape sticks very, very well. Other pieces of washi tape or other types of washi tape do not. If you have that happen to you, you can glue them down as well, but I think that kind of defeats the purpose of using washi tape, doesn't it? If you have to add more adhesive to it. So one other thing that you might be interested in knowing is that this little booklet fits inside of here when you close it. So when you put this on this page, you want to line it up so it'll drop down into this hole. And I just eyeballed it and it seemed to work, but you could measure it out. So I've got it all decorated. I'm not sure what I'm going to use for an enclosure yet. It may be another ribbon. I tend to like ribbons. Of course, I just realized I already put on the backing piece, but I can put another piece on top of it. I like to put the ribbon underneath the backing papers because it makes them more secure and hide your glue. But I can still do that with just another smaller piece. Use this as a border and over top of the ribbon, and I think that's exactly what I will do. And so in the next segment I'll come back and show you how I am doing the final embellishment of this photo box scrapbook album.
So that takes us to events in the past week, and update on my mother. She's fine. Tried to call her yesterday. She didn't answer the phone. Not unusual. So yeah, as far as I know, she's okay, and I'll be dropping in on her later this week. So that's all I need to say about her. Had my second class in the giant dahlia making. That's the big medallion kind of thing. And really, I have nothing to show you today. We're learning how to sew the pieces together, and I learned how to do Y-seams. Actually, Y-seams aren't that scary. So, you know, I mentioned before, I wanted to take this class because I want to learn how to do Y-seams, because when you mention Y-seams, people suddenly just toss their cookies and go into a catatonic state for some reason. Well, I don't know why they do that. They're not that difficult. They're a little awkward, but they're not that difficult. So, bonus, I have learned how to do Y-seams. So I'm not going to have fear of them in the future. If I see a pattern with Y-seams in it, I won't look away. So it's coming along. I have more work to do on it this week for homework, and when I get it together, I will show you the final product. I have my last two of the sewing classes I was taking on Tuesday, but I've already finished those. One of those was the quilt that I showed you earlier, the Flying Geese one. And the other class was the, and I showed it to you last week because it's all done, the Quilt as you go. But I still have one class in each of those left. So tomorrow, Tuesday, I'm going to take some other projects with me and use my time there, make it my own little mini retreat, and work on those projects as well. And that's about it for this past week. Yeah, I'm trying to think if we did anything else. Nope, don't think we did. So what's coming up? Nothing. Not right now, not in the next week. I am going to the dentist tomorrow morning for my 9-month checkup and cleaning. I hate that. I absolutely hate that. I am very conscious of my teeth. I look after them. Mainly because my parents both had really bad teeth. I mean, don't ever let my mother smile with her teeth, because all 6 of them that she has left, it's like a mouth of horrors in there. And I don't want that. But it's funny, you go to the dentist and they can always find something that they want to do. And dentists are expensive, and it's more reason why. And I think they're trying to do something about it, but who knows when that'll happen. I think the government needs to take more control of the dentistry industry. And I think we need to, and it would be through our taxes, but that's okay. I think it needs to be like our healthcare system. You need to have the dental care covered as well. We have insurance, Walter and I, and it covers about 85% of the cost, but not for all things. If you have to have anything that's cosmetically done, it doesn't cover much of that. And any major work like root canals, crowns, things like that, it covers only part of it and not quite 85% of it. I'm not sure what the percentage is. But dentists are expensive, and it's kind of like going to a mechanic. They always can find something that they think you should have done. So, knock wood, I've been lucky the last few times I've been there. No cavities. They've done my cleaning. I mean, they get in there. What is it, a power grinder? She's scraping away. I floss faithfully 4 times a day. And she's still in there going for gold. Just digging. And I always wonder, too, if this is really necessary. They would like me to come every 6 months because I have insurance. You know, I used to go once a year. Because, one, the coverage I had through my employer only covered a visit once a year to the dentist at that time. And 2, being a teacher, I didn't have time to go to the dentist more than once a year. So I did. Then when I retired, and of course with teachers, when we retire in this province, our benefits are gone. We don't have any. Contrary to what a lot of people might think. But I was covered under Walter's in benefits. And with it, I could go every 9 months. And actually, I could go every 6 months under the plan we have now. But I choose only to go every 9 months. But they remind me that all the time. Well, you know, your coverage, you have coverage. You can come every 6 months. Why do I want to stick myself every 6 months in a dentist chair and let them, like, stick every instrument that's ever been known to man down my throat? No. So anyways, I don't like the dentist. I get uptight about going to the dentist. Part of that comes from my experiences as a little kid in the dark ages of dentistry when they didn't use any kind of freezing or anything like that. And I remember the pain and the horror. And that's probably why I have an aversion to it. But I brush after every meal. Like I said, about 4 times a day. And I floss thoroughly 4 times a day. And yet, they will still find plaque. And get in there and go grind with their little hooks. I mean, talk about torture instruments. But anyways, that's tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. I like to get it out of the way. And then off to my sewing classes. So, we'll see what we will see. But I can tell you this. I'm not looking forward to it at all. It gives me stress. So that's about the highlight of the week, going to the dentist. There's a thrill. Okay, so join us for Stephen and Walter Live this coming week, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, usual time. And we'll talk to you then, and I'll see you next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.